Viren begins the Dragon Prince as the amoral advisor to King Harrow. If Harrow's kind-hearted son Ezrin represents the best of Harrow, Viren represents his worst impulses. Yet Viren, at least as we see him at the start of the series and in flashbacks, is not a one-dimensional villain. His motivation is understandable. He wants to save humanity from what he sees as a grave threat. And the show does not demonize him for this. While the Dragon Prince as a whole primarily views dark magic in a negative light, it does not necessarily believe that everyone who uses dark magic is 100% evil. It views dark magic as more akin to the unforgivable curses in Harry Potter. While these spells are largely associated with villains, that does not mean villains are the only ones who use these spells. Harry and the team use the Imperious Curse to break into Gringotts, and Harry uses the Cruciatus Curse once in the movies and multiple times in the books. Viren is not Ozai, despite the many obvious similarities between them. The show does not treat him as automatically, overwhelmingly evil. He's an extremist, sure, but he's an honest and sincere one. He genuinely believes that what he is doing is right, and considering the history of the hostilities between humans and elves, and considering humanity's innate disadvantage because of its inability to do elemental magic, it is hard to see his position as completely illegitimate. This is important because it changes the dynamics of his relationship with Aaravos. If Viren was nothing but a purely evil person at the start of the series, then the tale of these two would be nothing but a bad guy receiving advice from another, more competent bad guy. That is not particularly interesting to me. What the Dragon Prince actually does is far more fascinating. The show sets Viren as someone who is willing to go to extremes to get what he wants, even when that means dealing with an enigmatic being like Aaravos. That Viren deteriorates because of this decision contributes to the show's argument that relying on extremism contributes to a deterioration of the spirit. It's the idea of the slippery slope. Viren wanting to kill Thunder Avazandum because Thunder Avazandum killed Sarai, Harrow's wife, and Ezrin and Callum's mother, is not innately evil, and it may be understandable, but it also signifies that he is willing to do even worse things. The show offers a variation on this idea with the character of Claudia. Her turn to the dark side does not mean she goes from being completely flawless to being an irredeemable tyrant, just like that. It's much more subtle and relatable. Claudia loves the power and control dark magic offers her, and she loves the confidence that comes with being the beloved daughter of Viren. She's not quite as insecure as Callum, but she's also not as naturally confident as Ezrin, who basically has a perfect life until he loses his mother. Even after the deaths of Sarai and Harrow, Ezrin is never particularly insecure. He's confident things will continue going well. Contrast this with Claudia, who is extremely insecure. She knows her position is precarious, so she is willing to do whatever is necessary to maintain her grasp on that position. Initially, this just means she is willing to sacrifice a deer in order to heal her brother Soren's paralysis, but it soon progresses to her being willing to sacrifice enemy soldiers in order to bring her father, Viren, back from the dead. Like father, like daughter, most certainly, but back to Viren. He's different than Ozai in one other significant way. Ozai registers just as a supervillain, especially when viewed outside the specific purview of Zuko. Viren, however, registers as deeply human. There is one major reason for this: his vulnerability. Ozai has none of it. There is not a moment where Ozai is genuinely worried about the future. He gets angry, but he is always confident and secure and assured. There are moments in which he is genuinely terrified, such as when he believes Zuko is going to kill him with a bolt of lightning that he redirected from Ozai, but these moments of fear prompt no introspection. Viren is different. Like Claudia, he is deeply insecure. He knows there are those who would disapprove of his behavior. He knows he's alone. Even Harrow stopped talking to him. He has no one to turn to. No one except Aaravos. Viren is not an idiot. He is a very skilled tactician. He knows that Aaravos is not completely trustworthy. There are moments when he questions putting so much faith in his little bug pal. But he can never bring himself to change the path he's on. Viren's overwhelming insecurity does not mean he is not an egotist. Rather, his ego has an interesting relationship with his insecurity. Because he's an egotist, he believes that others are relying on him. He believes that the world is relying on him. He believes that he is the only one who has the power and intelligence to set things right and stop Katalis from being overrun with elves. He believes he is the only one who sees things for as they really are and is not corrupted by starry-eyed idealism. Considering that, from his perspective, his boss and best friend died because he didn't listen to Viren, these ideas are not completely unrelatable. But he also wonders if he is good enough to take the world to where he wants it to be. This is a major reason why he relied heavily upon Harrow. Well, that and his close personal friendship with the king. He knows he cannot do this alone. With Aaravos, he does not feel defenseless. He doesn't feel like a lone, misunderstood warrior fighting against a world that refuses to understand him. He feels like a powerful person whose dreams are in sight. It's easy to make fun of how effectively and completely Aaravos manipulates Viren, but put yourself in Viren's position. Your options are either to trust Aaravos or give in to despair. Your best friend has stopped trusting you, then died. All you have is dark magic. Why not trust in it? Why not trust in Aaravos? What choice does Viren have? It's not like he ever really sees Aaravos as a friend. Aaravos is not Harrow. Viren knows that. It's not like Viren is ever completely comfortable with Aaravos. The two are extremely different. Viren is grizzled and gruff. Aaravos is loquacious. Both have a silver tongue, but Viren's appeals are mostly about pragmatism, whereas Aaravos couches his appeals in mysticism and his charismatic air. Aaravos is so far from human that it is hard to understand who he really is or what he really wants. This is in contrast to Viren, whose flaws are deeply, achingly, painfully human. We currently know a lot about Virens past, but basically nothing about Aaravos' past. Viren is the father of two of the most important characters in the Dragon Prince, those being Claudia and Soren. Aaravos, meanwhile, is associated with basically no other characters aside from Thunder Avazandum, whom Viren and Harrow killed. Basically, all the information we have about Aaravos comes from Aaravos himself. We have no idea if Aaravos is telling the truth or not. For all we know, he could be making half of this up. Viren knows this too, and he's frustrated by it. If circumstances were better, Viren would never have trusted Aaravos. If Harrow were still alive, and Sarai were still alive, and the relations between elves and humans weren't as tense as they currently are, Viren would never have relied this heavily upon this enigmatic Star Touch elf. But Viren made his choices, just like Claudia made hers, and in both cases, devastation followed. Viren allows Aaravos to weave a silk patch over one of his eyes. This is symbolic. It allows Viren to see Aaravos, but it also represents how Viren is becoming increasingly blind to the outside world. As Season 3 progresses, his reliance upon Aaravos consumes him. When he's preparing to go off to war, he takes a detour just because Aaravos commands him to. The result is Aaravos killing the Queen of the Sunfire Elves, and most of Viren's army being transformed into dark magic zombies. Viren is just a shell of his former self. Even when he has been brought back to life, he's still obsessed with Aaravos. He's thankful to his daughter for bringing him back to life, but he's not focused on her. His relationship with Aaravos is that of two souls battling it out, and considering Viren's loneliness and utter desperation, it is no surprise he loses. So thank you all for watching. If you liked what you saw today, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Donate to my Patreon if you can, and you want to see more videos like this. Keep watching The Dragon Prince. It is a brilliant show, so nuanced, and it's only getting better as it goes along. I love how they introduce two villains, one tragic and deeply human, the other enigmatic and incomprehensible, and then develop the interplay between them. I can't wait to see where that goes in future seasons. So tune in soon for the next analysis. It's sure to be coming soon, or at least soon-ish. Thank you all again. Adios, comrades.